Why are they trying to get this democratically elected president impeached? The answer is pedogate. The answer is sex trafficking. President Trump is the first president in the history of the United States that has vowed to go after not only pedophiles, but the elite pedophiles. The world is run by elite pedophiles.
I heard you on Hagman and Hagman, and I know those guys pretty well, so
They're awesome.
It was a jaw dropper. I know you've been on there a couple of times, so I'd like to play a soundbite from that just to frame it up, because as I'm sure you're well aware, because you're so damn smart, there is a divide and conquer strategy in play right now within the truth community, within these truth news channels. Lots of new ones springing up, and I'm very suspicious of some of these newer ones, many of whom I now know that I'm not suspicious of. Honeybee, Tracy Beans, two people I trust. But right. I'm going to go through the litany of older people that I know I can trust. And we should just have a little conversation about this, because you're knee-deep into this thing with the Seth Rich investigation. And you can see what telling the truth gets you.
Oh, you have no idea. No idea what I've been through.
I know. So we should just talk about that. And, I'm already recording. Should we just dive in?
Sure. And I just, I'm sure you've been following the news today with the whole shooting with the Republican congressman.
Yes.
The representative that was shot, his name is Scalise. He is part of the movement to expose sex trafficking. He just posted a YouTube video a few days ago addressing sex trafficking. This is not a coincidence. I don't think this is a mistake. So I don't know if you want to get into this.
One of America's greatest values is our strong belief in the inherent worth of every human life. Human trafficking is a direct assault on this core value, and it affects millions of victims throughout the world. While many of us would like to believe that this issue isn't something that affects us, the sad truth is that human trafficking is a real problem plaguing each and every community here in the United States. Enough is enough. This week, the House took strong actions to stand up for the victims of human trafficking, passing tough bills to provide them protection and to target child predators. Let's work together to get these bills signed into law.
They are going after Trump. They are going after Sessions. And now they just shot this Scalise congressman. And there's one common theme here. They are all working hard to expose elite pedophiles. This is why they are going after Trump, Sessions, and people like Scalise. It has everything to do with pedogate. And people don't understand that, and they don't see that. But this is what I do for a living. And this is why there's such a desperate, and there's so much panic, and there's such a frantic, irrational movement to take these people down. Because once they start arresting some of the top people involved in sex trafficking, I mean, we're going to see at least half of our government fall.
I hope so. I think you're right. I've been saying for a very long time that the key to taking down the deep state is Pizzagate, and more specifically Pedogate, which is the global problem of child sex trafficking.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you want to get into that, we can, but this is just, it's not reported anywhere, and people aren't really connecting the dots. It's not their fault because no one covers this, but I'm telling you, I've been saying it nonstop, and I feel like I'm just talking all walls here, but everything that's going on, like the Kathy Griffin stuff, this play in New York where they're promoting the assassination of President Trump, they are desperately trying to destroy this man, and they probably will try to kill him because he's going after the sex trafficking, because he's exposing pedogate. That's the reason why.
All right. Well, why don't we just dive in? And if it's okay with you, I may just play everything that we've talked about so far, because we're over the target, because we're truth tellers. And I want to just address this for the audience. Guys, we're going to just dive right in here. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Sean from SGT Report here with investigative journalist Liz Crokin, who I have so much esteem for. And of course, she's been over the target for a very long time. And what she's discovered, and I discovered thanks to a wonderful interview she did with my friends over at Hagman and Hagman Report, is that when you tell the truth at places like Town Hall and even WND, WorldNetDaily.com, they tend not to want to pay you anymore. And so Liz Crokin is definitely a truth teller and an investigative journalist I trust. Now, among the other folks out there that I trust, who I've known for a very long time, is my friends at TruthStream Media, Aaron and Melissa, my buddy Gans Shimura at Face Like the Sun, and of course, as I've already mentioned, the Hagmans. And now some of the newcomers, Honeybee and Tracy Beans, I really like and admire and trust them as well. There's some other new ones. But I believe, Liz, and welcome to the show here, I believe that there is now a COINTELPRO or disinfo agenda that is making its way. The camel's nose is under the tent in the truth media, and they are now attempting to discredit all of us. There's some newer channels out there. I'm not even going to give these people the benefit of publicity by naming their names, but there's some new people out there that are causing all sorts of discord.
Yes.
And pointing fingers at many of us who've been over the target for a very long time. And anybody who questions me and thinks that I'm a disinfo agent, Google this video that I made back in like 2011, Which Criminal Bank Hates SGT Report, and you will find that the 3 IP addresses that I was being targeted by with ad hominem attacks and slurs constantly for months, those 3 IP addresses all led back to Bank of America. And as soon as I made that video showing the proof, those attacks stopped. So if you want to call me a disinfo agent, you're going to have to try really, really much harder, because I'm the real deal and so is Liz Crokin. Liz, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now, you and I were talking sort of the preliminary talk, which I think I just let play here because it's so darn interesting. Where would you like to start? Should we talk about this disinfo agenda to destroy the truth media, or should we talk about this shooting in D.C.?
Let's start with the disinformation agenda. I'm very aware of it. So let me just give some background to myself, so people will understand that I'm definitely not part of the disinfo movement. I've been a journalist for 2 decades. I've worked for the mainstream media, and my first job was at the Chicago Tribune as a city news reporter, where I covered crime, I covered fires, gang-related shootings. This was in Chicago. So that's where I got my start. And I also actually did some reporting in Washington, D.C. I was part of the White House press corps under George W. Bush. So I have a really huge, extensive background covering politics and entertainment and hard news. And I've worked for, dozens of mainstream media outlets over the past 2 decades. In the past 5 years ago, and I don't want to get too into this because it's going to distract from the more important issues, but 5 years ago I got really sick, which was the result of a sexual assault that was committed against me. So I wasn't able to work for a few years. And a year ago, I was able to get back into journalism almost full time. And again, the only reason why I haven't been able to work full time for years is because of my health, which thankfully is improving. So about a year ago, I got back into journalism, and I've done a lot of entertainment journalism as well. And I've worked for some tabloids where I've covered celebrities and politicians. But last year, I wanted to get back into journalism and specifically focus on covering the election, because I could not believe the lies they were telling about Donald Trump. I could not believe how bad things had gotten in the media, how bad they've been, or how badly they've become like propaganda machines, where they don't even care about the truth anymore. They were just so blatantly pushing a political agenda, colluding with Hillary Clinton, and demonizing Trump. And I have known Trump, and I've covered him for many years. I used to cover The Apprentice as an entertainment journalist. I actually used to fly down to New York for the finales to cover the show. So I'm very familiar with Trump and his entire family. And I knew what they were saying about him was false. And it really pissed me off. And so I got back into journalism, about a year ago, and I started writing for Town Hall. And I started writing stories just exposing the truth about Trump and the Clintons, who I've also covered for many years and known the truth about them for a long time. And I had no issues. I did some really good stories. A lot of them were kind of more op-ed pieces. I had no issues until last year, right before the election. I was working for the Observer. I freelanced for a bunch of places, but I was writing for the Observer, and I did a massive investigative piece exposing a corruption deal that the Hillary Clinton campaign was involved in. And what they were doing is Hillary Clinton's campaign was involved in this massive fraud scheme where they were stealing from her poorest donors. I mean, when I say poor donors, I'm talking about her supporters that didn't have more than $5 to donate to her campaign. And what they were doing is they were overcharging their bank cards repeatedly. And they did this to probably thousands and thousands of her supporters. And what they did is they managed to overcharge their bank cards just enough so it wouldn't be over $100. So they would overcharge their bank card so it add up to about $97, but it wouldn't exceed $100, and which was really smart because once someone's overcharged over $100 on their bank card, that's when the bank opens an investigation. And this was happening with, you mentioned Bank of America. Bank of America was one of them. There were several banks, and I talked to sources within the fraud departments of these banks, and they told me that they would get up to 100 phone calls a day from customers complaining about how Hillary Clinton's campaign had overcharged them. So they were embezzling literally millions of dollars from her poorest supporters, okay? I had tons of sources. I had tons of evidence. The story checked out, broke the story with the Observer. It went viral, of course, only in conservative press, not in the mainstream media. The mainstream media completely ignored it. But I'm telling this story because 2 days after the story went viral, my dog was poisoned. Okay? So that was the first strike against me that I experienced for exposing massive corruption. And since then, I've gotten into exposing sex trafficking, pedogate, and Seth Rich, and I have dealt with blowback, attacks, harassment, threats, I mean, you name it, since I started exposing the Clintons and then chose to move into the sex trafficking and exposing the truth behind the Seth Rich murder. And I mean, I've been dealing with blowback and problems and just nightmare situations ever since. So, yeah, I'm definitely not a disinformation agent, that's for sure. I've put myself in danger to expose these topics. But the fact that I'm getting so much blowback for trying to save children who are being raped and tortured by monsters and trying to get to the bottom of an unsolved murder goes to show you how scandalous these issues are, but more importantly, how massive these problems are. First of all, if these issues were just conspiracy theories, then why would I be getting attacked? Why would all these horrible things be happening to me? Why would I be getting shut down? Why would I be getting censored? Why would I be getting harassed? So it's just kind of validates that I'm doing good work and that what I'm covering is real. 100%. And it's a massive problem, and these problems are rampant.
Yeah, when these people attack us, you'll notice that all they can do is come at us with character assassination and ad hominems, because they can't come at us with facts. They cannot debate the facts, because the facts are on our side, the facts of their corruption. And so when you tell me that story about the DNC victimizing, Clinton campaign victimizing the poorest among their supporters, it only stands to reason for those of us that know what they did to the people of Haiti. with the Clinton
Exactly.
Foundation
Yep.
and $12 billion missing. And the fact that, of course, the Clintons came to the aid of Laura Silsby when she was caught trying to traffic 33 children out of Haiti. She said that they were orphans. They were not. They had families. They were just separated from their families in the chaos of the earthquake. So the Clinton list of crimes is long. And guys, I want to play this clip from the Hagman and Hagman report. This is an interview Liz did with the Hagmans. And this is not the type of thing that you hear a disinfo agent say. These are the things a truth teller says. Listen to this.
I mean, you guys know how these people operate. You know how the deep state operates. You know how the Clinton mafia operates. These people, they use fear, they use intimidation. I mean, they will hurt you, they will hurt your family, they will hurt your pets, they'll slash your tires, they will do horrible things to you. And I believe that this family is very fearful.
Of course, she's talking about Seth Rich's family there. Liz, when I originally heard you say that about pets, I didn't realize that they had come and poisoned your own dog. But it doesn't surprise me. And the acts of the deep state, I believe that there are, I hate to say it, but there's contract killers out there running around. There's hit teams running around in this country. And I think that may be exactly what happened to Seth Rich.
Exactly. And, this is nothing new. They killed, I believe, 2 of Kathleen Willey's pets. And Kathleen Willey was one of the women that came out to expose Bill Clinton. He sexually assaulted her and harassed her, and they made her life a living hell. Now, this was in the 90s. So they've been doing this kind of crap for decades, for at least 2 decades. Actually, no, 3 decades. They've been doing this stuff for at least 3 decades. All of the women that Bill Clinton raped, sexually assaulted, sexually harassed, they have killed their pets, harassed them, slashed their tires, threatened them, you name it. So this is nothing new. They've been using these disgusting, violent thug tactics for decades, and it's nothing new. And honestly, when I broke my massive corruption story about Hillary Clinton's campaign, sadly, because I've known about the Clintons' antics for decades. I did a research project on Hillary Clinton when I was a freshman in college. So that was over 20 years ago, okay? I did a research project on all of Bill Clinton's scandals then and talked about these kinds of things then. So when I exposed this huge fraud scheme that Hillary Clinton was involved in with her campaign, I expected something like my dog getting poisoned to happen. I literally expected it. And I actually, the day that he went into anaphylactic shock, I have really good intuition. That's why I'm a good reporter. It's one of the reasons why I'm a good reporter is because I have very good intuition and I trust my gut. The day that my dog was poisoned, I was supposed to go to some big Hollywood event and I canceled on my girlfriend. I told her I am not feeling good and I am not feeling good about leaving my dog alone today. And she was furious with me. She already got her hair done. And, but I knew, I just had a really bad feeling. I knew that something really dark was about to happen. And sure enough, a few hours later, my dog went into anaphylactic shock and almost died. And if I wasn't home to rush him to the animal hospital, he would have died. They said, the vet said it was one of the worst cases of an anaphylactic shock they'd ever seen. And his heart almost completely stopped. So, sadly, because I'm woke and I know what's going on, I expected this to happen. This is how these people operate. These are the kinds of things that they do. And they do it to journalists. They do it to anyone exposing their evil deeds. And they've done it to me. And they did it to anyone that spoke out about Bill Clinton's sexual misconduct. And now they're doing it to Seth Rich's family. And I know that for a fact because I've been covering this, and I'm in communication with people that were very close to Seth and/or his family. Okay, I'm on top of this. I'm actually working on breaking a news story about Seth Rich right now. I was on the phone with someone this morning about it. So that's what's going on.
Do you want to share any? Well, I guess we'll wait for that breaking news about Seth Rich because I'm not sure how deep we should get into the Seth Rich case right now because there's so many nuances to the story. And, I'm not sure if you're following this George Webb sort of controversy now. I don't really want to get into it other than to say that this George Webb, Dave Acton, DeFango thing that's going on is, again, it's causing a lot of discord in the truth news community because nobody knows who to trust anymore. And I have always said that you have to look at the trees and ask yourself, do the trees bear fruit? So I like to go to the trees with deep roots. Again, the people I named earlier. These are trees with deep roots that have been bearing fruit for a very long time. Talking about the bankers, the Bank of International Settlements sitting atop the global pyramid. Below them, the IMF and the World Bank. Below them, the central banks. This is my area of expertise. I won't stop talking about it because it is the truth, and the truth can't be made the untruth. So it doesn't matter what our detractors say as they try to continue to cause discord in the truth community. The truth is the truth, and the trees that bear fruit will continue to give you big, juicy fruit, and that's what Liz is giving us. So what do you want to do about this Seth Rich thing? Because now these people, and they're not all disinfo agents, but they're causing discord. And now I see people saying, well, is Seth Rich really dead? There was no autopsy. There's no death certificate. And, people start to go down these other rabbit holes when I want people to stay over the main rabbit hole, the main target area, which is, was Seth Rich the WikiLeaker? Kim.com says that he was. And if that's the case, then it makes perfect sense that the DNC and John Podesta and anybody else involved in this thing would have potentially been involved in whacking him to shut him up or to make an example of him. I think that's the most important story as it relates to Seth Rich.
Well, first of all, in terms of George Webb, and I'm not going to get too into the George Webb circus, but what I will say about George Webb is that his campaign, YouTube campaign to expose all these scandals, whatever you want to call it, has become a freaking circus, okay? I mean, I don't watch the videos every day, but the last few times I've checked in, his brother's coming out and saying that he was in a mental institution, he has schizophrenia, and other people are saying, no, his brother's crazy. I mean, and George is now drinking, he started drinking recently during his broadcast, and you can tell that he's slurring and he's buzzed, and it has become a circus. And I do believe that there's been some stuff that he's put out there that's been accurate, but what's really unfortunate is that the circus that has become his YouTube channel has deflected from any good stuff that he's come out there, okay? And he has gone into so many rabbit holes that I believe that his movement has just become this big distraction that has only hurt people that are trying to expose the truth.
Well, I want to say something, too. I've stayed out of this briar patch, and I've been observing the same things you've been observing because, first of all, I am not in the business of dragging others down. It's something I absolutely abhor, and people know that about my channel. As it relates to this George Webb thing, I was sort of in a watch and learn mode, and I had concerns, too, when he started drinking so much wine during his broadcasts and really starting to hurt his professionalism in my estimation. I can't imagine doing that during a live broadcast or a tape broadcast or otherwise when you're trying to get the truth out. Now, one of the things I want to say, I want to play this clip for you because since we're on the topic of George Webb, I think it merits playing this clip. One of the YouTubers out there, really graceful, called in during one of these live broadcasts to ask him a question about his affiliation with Mossad. Now, early on in the George Webb days, I had heard him in one of his videos say, and I think this is a direct quote, "I am a Zionist." And so I made note of that because I'm like, well, what exactly does that mean? I mean, it gives me an idea of his geopolitical beliefs and maybe his spiritual alignments. But let's just note that and move on. He's providing good information. And then more recently, he had made mention of the Mossad and him really being more affiliated with the old Mossad. And then really graceful asked him about that specifically. And I want to play this quote because it is a concern, I think. It's a big concern. And I should say this before I play the clip, too. I, for a long time about George Webb, had been wondering how he was the source of such incredible information on a daily basis and naming names and places and tying all these things together. If he previously was never an investigative journalist, where was he getting this information? Who was feeding him this information? Or is he just a genius citizen journalist? It really gave me pause, and now we see, some of these other truths coming out.
And what gives me the most pause is that, now he's claiming that his life's in danger and all this stuff's happening. But from the beginning, he had no problems at all. Okay, I write one story exposing like the Clintons and their corruption, and like my dog's almost dead within 2 days.
Right, right.
No, like no, seriously though, like just that within itself, I found very strange. Very strange that he's exposing all these scandals, and he's like saying where he's at, and da da da, and he's his he doesn't have any problems with YouTube, and he did claim that all some of his videos were missing.
Oh, and then it came out he deleted
revealed
them.
that he deleted them.
Yeah, no, I know. So, all right, this actually segues nicely into this clip, because when you hear his response to one of Really Graceful's questions about his role or affiliation with the Mossad, his response gives me pause from obviously an ethical standpoint. Listen to this.
Yeah, so Mossad's interest is we want business as usual. All this noise, there's a lot of noise around Hillary Clinton, Anthony Weiner, Huma Abedin, all this stuff. I mean, it's not good for business. And I don't think it's necessary. There's also a lot of blowback when you start doing organ harvesting and stuff like that, especially as it gets closer to the United States and then starts coming into Chicago and other major cities. There's a lot of blowback, and it's going to blow up everything. So I think that's a dangerous practice, and I'm just trying to say let's dial it back about 30 years to 1991, 92. And so that's what I talk about when I say old Mossad. You can slap any label you want on it.
I'll pause it there, because he goes on to basically say, let's just dial it back to, a little bit of organ harvesting, a little bit of child trafficking. I mean, let's just dial it back to the way it used to be, and everybody can make a nice profit without, having this whole system fall apart. And I found that very, very disturbing.
Yeah, I've found a lot of really strange things with George Webb. I mean, someone posted screenshots of messages between him and George Webb, and these could have been altered, but they posted messages between them and themselves and George Webb, and George had admitted to being involved in some kind of sex trafficking. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on over there, and it's not good. It doesn't help the movement to have all this noise. But I will say that at one point, George talks about how the deep state, to distract from a really big scandal, what they'll do is they will throw out as many scandals as possible, including some real information about the real scandal, in an effort to distract from the real scandal. So what they'll do is they will try to throw so much information into the public sphere and say, oh, there's this scandal, that scandal, that scandal, that scandal, that scandal, and that scandal, to distract from the one scandal that they're trying to take people's attention away from.
Right.
And I have never religiously followed George Webb. And part of the reason why I don't religiously follow George Webb, regardless if he's legit or not, is because he's covering 1,000 different scandals at once. There's no focus. He talks about drug trafficking, then he talks about organ harvesting, then he talks about the Wan brothers, and then he talks about sex trafficking, and it's like, what? And it just gets too hard. It gets too hard to handle, and it gets too hard to follow. But that is a deep state tactic. That's a deep state tactic, and George has even admitted that. And he's admitted that that's a deep state tactic, and it's like, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You're literally throwing out so much information about all these alleged scandals. And in my opinion, it's just distracting from the two biggest scandals that we should all be narrowing our focus on. And that is sex trafficking / pedogate and Seth Rich. And by the way, Seth Rich is tied into sex trafficking, and his murder is tied into pedogate. And that is one of the reasons why I have been covering both pedogate and Seth Rich. And as I mentioned before, I was a victim of a sex crime. That's why I'm very passionate about sex trafficking and helping sex crime victims. I've done charity work for years, and I know a lot of sex crime victims. I mean, I understand sex trafficking, satanic ritualistic abuse. I have very good friends, one of my best friends, was the victim of sex trafficking and SRA when she was about 5 years old. So this is my focus. This is my passion. And George's movement is, I believe, doing a disservice at this point to getting the truth out there about sex trafficking and Seth Rich's murder. And it's really unfortunate.
All right. Well,
deflect, red flag.
Maybe what we should do is circle back to this shooter situation in Washington, D.C., the never Trumper named James Hodgkinson. And I think that you have some information that you shared early on in the interview, right when I welcomed you, about this and how this is related to what you were just saying. It's related to pedogate to some degree.
Yes. So, okay. I believe firmly that all of this hysteria with Trump, all of the attacks against Trump, the Russia conspiracy theory, we have never seen an effort so aggressive and so big and so hard try to take down a president of the United States that was democratically elected, who has done zero criminal wrongdoing. We have never, ever seen this in our lifetimes, and this has never happened in the history of this country, okay? So one has to ask themselves, why in the hell is there such a concerted effort to take down President Trump when there's no proof that he has done anything illegal? And they're using this Russian BS as a vehicle to try to get him impeached. And the Congress has spent months, okay, on this investigation when there has been zero evidence, zero proof that Trump or anyone within his administration colluded with Russia to win this election. If anything, there's evidence that Clinton colluded with Russia.
Well, and we have absolutely hardcore evidence from Comey's own testimony that Loretta Lynch was involved in the obstruction of justice as it pertains to the prosecution and investigation of Clinton for her crimes. So they don't want to investigate that, and the CIA, CNN, Mockingbird Media certainly doesn't want to talk about it either. They just want to stay on this stupid Russian hack the election meme, which has really largely been completely disproven. It's a complete hoax. It's a CNN, CIA, Mockingbird talking point.
Exactly. So this is what's really important about this, and this is what I really hope that your viewers will understand. The Russian conspiracy theory is a hoax. It's a lie. It is an effort to try to get Trump impeached. But people need to ask why. Why are they trying to get this democratically elected president impeached? The answer is pedogate. The answer is sex trafficking. President Trump is the first president in the history of the United States that has vowed to go after not only pedophiles, but the elite pedophiles, okay? The world is run by elite pedophiles. We have them in Hollywood, where I live. We have them in the big banks. We have them in Congress. We have them in royal families. The world is run by diabolical Satanists who rape and torture children and sell children for profit. That is a fact. President Trump is not okay with people raping and torturing children. Okay? This is the most profitable black market business in the world. Human trafficking is the most profitable black market business in the world. And the most powerful people in the world are involved with this. And they know that President Trump knows what they're doing and is going to take them down. That is why we are seeing the hysteria with Trump. That is why we are seeing the left, and it's not just the left, by the way, but the left's agenda promotes and pushes pedophilia and sex trafficking more so than the right's agenda. But there are Republicans and Democrats who are pedophiles. Okay, look at Dennis Hastert. He was thrown in prison for raping boys, still in prison. Anyways, this is why they're going after Trump, because they know that he's taking them down, and they know that with President Trump, the gig is up. They will no longer be able to rape and torture children and profit off of sex trafficking, okay? Now, President Trump has made this very clear. The mainstream media won't cover it because the mainstream media is also involved in sex trafficking. So President Trump gave a listening session at the White House where the press was invited, where he talked about sex trafficking and he vowed to go after sex trafficking rings, all right? Since he was elected president, we have seen an unprecedented number of sex trafficking and pedophile arrests. And Trump has talked about this, and he said that we are going after pedophiles and we are going after sex trafficking. This is a fact. We have seen about 6,000 pedophiles who have been arrested since Trump was sworn in. No one's covering it, but it's true, and all the information's out there, all right? So Trump's going after the pedophiles, and people not only is Trump talking about it, and the mainstream media won't report it, but Ivanka has talked about it, Kellyanne Conway has talked about it, they have tweeted about it, and then we have Jeff Sessions talking about it. Jeff Sessions, about a week and a half ago, gave a speech to 1,500 law enforcement officials talking about human trafficking, talking about how they're going after human trafficking, and was kind of, pumping them up, he was trying to pump them up and I guess, kind of get them rallied because they really are going after these sex trafficking rings. And he was trying to give them support because going after sex trafficking is the most horrendous topic that you can cover, expose, and take down as a police officer. I mean, the stuff that people see when they go in and rescue children is stuff that no one should have to see, okay? So he gave a speech just trying to support his law enforcement officers and get them really motivated to take down these monsters. So now we have the shooting that happened this morning, and who was targeted? Not only were Republican members of Congress targeted, we have Representative Scalise. Am I saying his name correctly?
I think so.
Representative Scalise was shot. Well, guess what? A few days ago, what did he do? He posted a video about sex trafficking. This is not a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence that the left and the deep state is trying to promote the assassination of President Trump. It's not a coincidence that the left is trying to force Jeff Sessions to resign. Jeff Sessions is as clean as a whistle, which we learned when he, spoke in front of Congress about this whole Russian BS. It was very obvious that this man has done absolutely nothing wrong. He is clean as a whistle. So why in the hell would they be trying to take down a good man who has never been involved in any scandals? And let me tell you, it has everything to do with sex trafficking. And that's what everybody is missing here.
You are so over the target, and I did not know that about Steve Scalise. I would like to see the video he posted, but as it relates to Jeff...
I'm going to email it to you.
Okay.
I'll email it to you right now, and then you can post it under the video as like the first comment so people can see for themselves.
Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is absolutely not a coincidence. And as it relates to Jeff Sessions, have you ever seen that video of him slapping away Joe Biden's hand?
Oh, yeah.
In the presence of that little girl?
What you're about to see is very disturbing. Now, obviously, the behavior that you're seeing here fits the profile of a pedophile. Obviously, nobody out there would take liberties with other people's children like creepy Joe Biden does. And there's just tons of footage of him out there touching children inappropriately, caressing them, massaging them, basically grooming them, and making them feel basically awkward in their own skin. And this is part of the pedophile process. This is part of the virus that we're dealing with. in terms of these spirit cookers. Now, check out this footage. This is the Attorney General Jeff Sessions when he was senator being sworn in by then Vice President Biden. Now, all the people are running away with their children, but Biden sees a victim. So he swoops in, he tries to touch her, and boom, bitches, boom. He's like, get out of here. Get out of here. Don't touch this kid. He knows. Jeff Sessions knows what Biden is. And the reason that he knows is because he's had many years to work with him.
Let me tell you, Attorney General Jeffrey Sessions and President Trump, they have known for a very long time about the pedophilia problem with politicians and the elites, all right? And as someone like myself who has been the victim of a horrible sex crime and has dedicated my life to helping sex crime victims, the reason why I got involved with exposing, what was going on before the election and exposing the truth about Trump and the truth about Clinton is because, I knew that they were telling lies about President Trump, like I said earlier, and that he's a good person. But I also knew that President Trump knew about the pedophilia, knew about the sex trafficking, and I knew that President Trump would go after these monsters. I knew it. And that is why I worked so hard to help get him elected and to get the truth out about him, which put myself in great danger doing so. But it was the right thing to do, and I knew I had to do it. Trump has been talking about the pedophiles and the pedophile problem for years. He's known for years. He operates within these elite circles. And so do I. Unfortunately, when you work in entertainment, you work in politics, unfortunately, you have to be in the same room with satanic pedophiles sometimes, okay? Like, I work in Hollywood, and I've been at parties with some really horrible celebrities that I know are child rapists, okay? President Trump has known about the Clintons and their involvement with sex trafficking. He has known about Jeffrey Epstein, who was a convicted pedophile who was trafficking children as sex slaves on his island, where tons of politicians, members of the royal family, celebrities have gone, where you damn well know they are raping children. And Jeff Sessions has known about this for a long time too. And that video of him slapping creepy hands, Joe Biden's hands away from his granddaughter proves it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask you something. And first of all, I want to back you up. Guys, this is historical fact. Jimmy Savile was trafficking children to the elite in London. He was a cover-up artist for pedophilia, and everybody was covering up his crimes, and he was friends with Prince Charles. Prince Charles wanted Jimmy Savile to be the godfather to his sons. He was knighted by the Queen. Jimmy Savile was a necrophiliac, and he abused children for 30 years. Working at the BBC, his crimes were covered up. Sir Edward Heath, who died in 2006, it's now well known, was trafficking children, abusing children, and he's accused of having been involved in the murder of up to 16 children, and these accusations come from surviving victims. Now, this is historical fact. I do want to ask you one thing as it relates to Trump. We will see in the comments here, and I've never been able to debate this because I don't know the fact. I see a lot of people say, oh, well, Trump's been on the Jeffrey Epstein plane.
No, he hasn't.
I never saw anything to back that up. Is that untrue?
I have looked into that, and I have found zero proof of him being on Jeff Epstein's plane. Zero. Now, has he been at the same parties with this man? Yeah, of course. He lived in New York. They both were in New York City, and they both were invited to the same galas. But no, there is a report, too, that Epstein tried to get into Mar-a-Lago, some event at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump booted him from it. So, no, there is no proof that he was ever on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. And hello, Trump has his own plane.
Yeah, and I just want to say something as it relates to Trump, because everybody, again, he's the victim of character assassination. That's what they do, right? They fire ad hominems. That's what the mainstream media mockingbirds specialize in, right? And they bear false witness against their neighbor constantly. That's how they'll get us into a war in Syria against Assad. That's what they did to Gaddafi. That's what they do. So as it relates to Trump, do you guys think that if they didn't have the goods on him, if he wasn't corrupt to the core, if he wasn't diddling little children, if he wasn't involved in that, do you think or I should say, if he was involved with that, do you think that that wouldn't be all over the media? They've been wiretapping him. They wiretapped Trump Tower. So he must be pretty damn clean, Liz, because they don't have anything on
I was for the National
him.
Enquirer for years and for other tabloids. I found nothing on Trump. Zero. And trust me, we tried hard. You know, when The Apprentice came out, it was the #1 show. That would have been an awesome story to get a story about him having some affair or like doing something crazy in the tabloid world. That would have sold tons of magazines. And again, that is why I came out and I needed to speak out in support of Trump, because I've worked for the tabloids for years and there was nothing. He was a very famous person for decades, and nothing like that came out until he ran for president. Okay? And let me tell you something else. We don't have any proof that he was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. But you know what we do have proof of? That Bill Clinton was on his plane over 25 times.
Right.
That's a fact. We know that for a fact, okay? Let me tell you something else. A few months before the election, I found out that the left and the deep state was going to try to accuse President Trump of what Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are guilty of. And that's rape, sexual assault, basically rape and sexual assault, okay? So I heard about this before the accusations came out. And sure enough, right on cue, we had all these women come out of the woodwork accusing Trump of, inappropriate touching and blah, 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 blah. The first woman that came out, that horrific woman, Jessica Leeds, who came out and said, President Trump octopused me on a plane and, is grabbing me on a plane, 20 some years ago. By the way, if you look at her picture, sorry, lady, like just looking at her picture alone makes that story very hard to believe. However, she claimed that, President Trump was inappropriate on a plane and, was touching her inappropriately, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? I looked into this woman, ran some background checks on her, ran some deep investigative searches on her. And what did I find out? Oh, her and her family are best friends with Hillary Clinton. And let me tell you something. So close with Hillary Clinton that Hillary Clinton goes to their houses for fundraisers. Like Hillary Clinton hangs out in their home, okay? Furthermore, what else did I find out about Jessica Leeds? Which, by the way, I tried to get published, and of course, no one would publish this story.
Of course not.
But what else did I find out about Jessica Leeds? 2, not 1, 2 of her immediate family members were running a sex trafficking ring in Palm Springs.
My God. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make this stuff up, okay? So this woman, Jessica Leeds, who accused Trump of inappropriately touching her on a plane 20-some years ago, her family, 2 of her family members were convicted in sex crimes in Palm Springs. Okay, I could send you that link too. I should write a story on this now.
Yeah, you should. And I want people to understand how deep this rabbit hole goes and how widespread this problem is. And this is exactly why the mainstream mockingbirds went out of their way to actually, fabricate lies about what was being called Pizzagate. Liz, I don't know if you know this, but you tell me what the statistic probability is of Jennifer Tapper, Jake Tapper's wife, Jake Tapper being the CNN anchor. Jennifer Tapper told the Washingtonian a year before anyone had ever heard of Pizzagate, and before this Pizzagate thing became any issue whatsoever, and she did an interview with Washingtonian. She was asked what her favorite restaurants were, and she said that her favorite family restaurant was Comet Ping Pong, and their favorite date night restaurant was Buck's Hunting and Fishing, or whatever that other one is called, right there in the same neighborhood. Now, what is the statistical probability that I've been to Washington, D.C. There's thousands of wonderful restaurants. What is the statistical probability that the Tapper's favorite restaurant was Comet Ping Pong? I just asked the question because to me it defies belief.
Well, let's look at what the facts are here with Comet Ping Pong. James Alefantis, at the minimum, is a disgusting pervert. who publicly posted the sexual exploitation of children on his Instagram page, okay? And not only that, he promoted pedophilia. That's a fact, okay? Now, do we know for sure that they were raping, torturing, and trafficking children in Comet Ping Pong? No, we don't. But what a fact is that James Alefantis was promoting the sexualization of children and pedophilia on his Instagram page. He was posting pictures of children in compromising in sexual positions. He was posting children being tortured, children being tied down and taped down to tables. He was posting pictures of children with anal beads around their neck and posting pedophile words such as chicken lovers, which means a man who likes to have sex with babies and children. Who in their right mind, who isn't a pedophile, would do that?
Yeah, and who'd want to go and frequent that establishment, right? So there's the question, and that's the reason I bring up the tappers, is because the CNN, Mockingbird, mainstream media went out of their way to prevent any sort of investigation. And that's what they do to truth tellers. When anyone is speaking about things that need to be investigated, the mainstream media doesn't say, well, let's talk about that issue and let's debate it. They target the truth teller. And they throw ad hominems at the truth teller. And that's essentially what they did to that whole thing.
And you're right.
Well, and I want to tell you something else, too, because, you tell me what the statistical possibility is of a magic bullet killing our president, right? JFK. There was another magic bullet recently, and that's when Edgar Welch, that shooter, walked in allegedly to Comet Ping Pong and fired, I heard originally just one shot, then I heard two, who knows. But one of them was a magic bullet that hit the Comet Ping Pong server, which James Alefantis then went on TV to say, oh, yes, and the bullet went right through our computer.
Alefantis says he wouldn't have found anything exciting. And here is our bags and coat closet. The bullet went into our computer system. After police arrived, Welch surrendered peacefully, saying that he was trying to rescue the children.
Yeah, how convenient. And allegedly that video that came out that went viral that people believe could have been John Podesta raping and torturing a little child was from one of the Comet Ping Pong's computers that someone had hacked into. And what we do know is that the Comet Ping Pong site had some secure area where you could log in with a passport, and they did find links to porn and I believe child porn in relation to Comet Ping Pong site. I mean, there's so much to question there. And then another thing that we know to be true is that Comet Ping Pong had bands play, at their restaurant. And these bands joked about raping kids.
That's right.
What the hell? What family restaurant would have a band come and perform and be okay with them talking about raping kids on stage? This is insanity.
Yeah, well, the patrons, too, listening to the band and listening to that particular performer talk about those things, then would respond in kind and say, so-and-so likes to bonk kids. I mean, we have it on tape, and I guess I'll have to scrounge that video up here and play some of these for you, some of these exchanges for you guys.
Jerry is known to hang out down here. He likes the world sounds. Tamales.
And little boys.
And children.
I think that was his manager.
Because they're very, very disturbing. And the final point about Alefantis is, where there's smoke, there's fire, is how could a local pizza shop owner in Washington, D.C. be named by GQ magazine as being in the top 50 most influential people in Washington, D.C.? In fact, I think he was ranked 50th, ahead of senators, ahead of congressmen. Is his pizza that good, or is his quote-unquote pizza?
People who have been there have said it's crap.
No, but I'm saying, is his quote-unquote pizza that good?
Yeah.
Because the terms they use in those circles. Pizza, walnut sauce, etc. The whole coded language that came out in the WikiLeaks Podesta emails is cause for concern based on what the FBI tells us pedophiles use.
And to this day, no one has been able to explain what the coded words were, and no one has, and in addition to that, not even John Podesta himself has denied the authenticity of the emails.
Well, look.
And furthermore, we do know that some of the emails that WikiLeaks published caused people to lose their jobs. Okay, Donna Brazil and Debbie Wasserman Schultz were fired because of these emails.
Right.
So if they weren't authentic, then why are people losing their jobs?
Well, they're authentic, and I don't think the charge has ever been made by Podesta or the DNC that they were inauthentic. The charge was made by CNN that they were stolen or hacked or leaked, and so nobody should be looking at them. See, because again, the CNN Mockingbird mainstream media doesn't want people to research truth. They don't want the hard questions being asked, and they certainly don't want investigations being done into these crimes, which is why people like Donald Trump are being targeted. And Steve Scalise. Like, I had no idea about Steve Scalise. Again, you're right over the target breaking news here. And in our final moments together, because I've taken so much of your time already, first of all, I want to know, how can we support you? Do you have a Patreon page?
You know, I just set up a Patreon. I just started a PayPal account.
Now, let's get you on Patreon, and I have so many wonderful supporters who I am sure would be happy to hop over to your Patreon page and, pledge $5 a month or whatever to support your truth-telling. Because I know when you write an article for Town Hall and you submit 2, 3, 4 articles and they don't respond, and when WND doesn't want your services anymore, there's a problem. We need to crowdsource Liz Crokin to keep her viable.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really frustrating because this work is so important, and this is what I want to continue doing, but I obviously can't continue doing it if I can't support myself. So I'm going to set up a Patreon account. I've already set up a PayPal account. That's my pinned tweet on Twitter, and I'm working on launching my own website where I'm going to report all of this stuff. My website should be done by the end of the week. And, I have already gotten a lot of donations, which I'm so grateful for. Because again, without donations, I can't continue to do this, and no one in the mainstream media will cover this, and no one will hire me anymore. Because I got censored and basically banned from Town Hall because of the work I was doing exposing sex trafficking for them. But thankfully, I was able to get 2 articles out there about sex trafficking that went viral before they, told me that they're not interested in my work anymore. And then I was able to get at least 3 stories about Seth Rich. With exclusive information, come out with WND before they basically told me they had to sever ties with me and offered no explanation. So, it is what it is. I should have gotten independent a long time ago. But, I want your viewers to know that I am dedicated to this. The sex trafficking is personal for me. And like I said, I am very close with a lot of people who've been the victims of this, the most disgusting, horrific crimes, you could ever imagine. And I fight for these people, and I won't stop. And all of us as human beings, our number one and first obligation and priority should be protecting children. Okay. And if people can't do that, then you don't deserve to live. You don't deserve to be on this planet. This should be everyone's priority. And I don't care if you like Trump or if you don't like Trump. You need to get behind his efforts to take down these pedophiles. And if you won't, then I'm sorry, you are part of the freaking problem, and get out of our way.
Yeah, amen. And I'm sorry I stepped on your line there when you were going to tell us about your PayPal account. Why don't you give us that address? How do people donate to you via PayPal?
Let me see. Let me look. I think it's just, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Just give me 1 second.
Sure. And the other thing, guys, is I would say, we're having this conversation on the 14th of June. I will probably get this posted on the 15th of June. Mm-hmm. So hopefully in the next 24 hours, Liz will set up her Patreon page. So why don't you just go and search for Patreon/Liz Crokin, LizCrokin. And
that's a good idea.
See if that's not set up, because I know how much it would mean to her, even if you pledged a couple bucks a month to help support her efforts. And in the meantime, there's a PayPal link here.
My PayPal is, so it's just www.paypal.me/Liz Crokin. And follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter @Liz Crokin. I'm on Facebook. I post about sex trafficking every day, all day. Post about Seth Rich and other news too, but my focus is sex trafficking. No, I was about to say Seth trafficking. My focus is sex trafficking and Seth Rich. So I appreciate everyone's support, and I encourage everyone to spread information about this, because President Trump is going to take down these pedophiles, and he's getting ready to arrest people at the top. And it's going to be a lot easier for him if the public is awake to this and if they're supporting him. So, everyone has an obligation to get information out there, to spread the word, educate people, and pray for these children and pray for the leaders that are going after these sex trafficking rings, because they are going after the most powerful and evil people in the world. And it's scary. So they need our support.
Yeah. All right. Well, God bless you, Liz, and God bless those that are actually in the business of trying to save these kids and speak truth about what's going on. These are crimes against humanity. And again, the Mockingbird mainstream media is in collusion with the criminal politicians in our government and in other governments that are trying to cover this stuff up. The deep state wants it covered up. I really pray for some white knights in the deep state to step forward and help support Trump. This shooting in D.C. is very scary because it sends this subliminal message to other nutters out there that it's okay just to, you know what I'm saying. It plants a seed. It plants a seed for other nutters to go do despicable things. This world could be an Eden. I swear to God, this world could be an Eden if we could just throw off these slave masters that have really been in control of humanity for centuries.
And it's so true. And one final thing before we end the interview, and this is important for people to understand too, if we could eradicate sexual abuse, the molestation and rape and torture of children from our society, it would eliminate almost every single problem within our society. It would eliminate drug addiction, alcohol addiction, PTSD, multiple personality disorder, depression, anxiety, anorexia, bulimia, obesity. All of these problems are the effects of sexual abuse. If you walk into an AA meeting, you will find that 90% of the people there were molested. Okay? I'm telling you, sex trafficking and sexual abuse is the biggest problem in the world today. And if we could eradicate this evil from our planet, this planet would be such a more harmonious and peaceful place. Because sexual abuse is the root of so many problems. So many problems.
No, I know it to be true. Well, Liz, thank you so very much for your personal testimony. I didn't know that you had suffered from sexual abuse, and I'm glad that you're recovering. You're really a light, a shining light for all of us. You're somebody I trust in the truth media. As we mentioned at the beginning of the interview, guys, beware of those that are causing discord and disharmony and trying to divide and conquer the truth media. You'll know them. You'll know them by the fruits they bear, which are rotten fruits. Liz, we can follow you on Twitter too, correct?
Yeah, at Liz Crokin.
All right. Well, God bless. And guys, look for those links below. I'll try to put the links to hopefully her Patreon page and her PayPal account below this interview so you can donate to Liz Crokin. She's been our guest, and I really appreciate it. Liz, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much
for having me, and let me know when it's up, and I'll post it and blast all over social media.
Okay. Well, I will definitely do that. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. For real news 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com. God bless.
And so we're seeing chaos being unleashed, and they're trying to blame it on Trump. They're trying to blame it on the current administration, trying to blame it on Putin, on China. No, it's their world is falling apart. And if people get that, then we can get above the panic or the fear that these guys are so powerful that they'll never lose control. They've already lost control, Sean.